right off the bat, this movie sucks. And first off, I want to say thank you to Andrew. This is a paid request, which he donated via PayPal. He wanted me to talk about and review Spider-Man 3. Now, like I said before, I haven't really done a whole lot of paid requests, but for those who are interested, I'll leave a link down below to where you can request, things like reviews or, commentaries, movie topics, things of that sort. Nothing too personal or weird, but again, movie stuff, movie reviews, topics, etc. But like I said, he wanted me to talk about and review Spider-Man 3. Now, I don't know what he feels about the movie, but I hate Spider-Man 3. Now, to recap on the first two movies, the first film I did see when it came out. It was a big deal when it came out back in 2002. I remember all the marketing for the film, I remember all the promotion, and, it's a film that, I liked when I first saw. But over the years, I started to see, to me, issues with the film. Green Goblin looking like a Power Ranger villain. To me, they should have went with that natural, goblin design, which there was a goblin design that they had in mind for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why they never went that way, where it was like a practical, design of the goblin look, that people are familiar with, but instead they go the route of him looking like a Power Ranger villain. But, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, honestly, I mean, I wasn't. He's he's okay as Peter Parker. Um, Spider-Man, I'm either or. Like, I can really take or leave him. I do feel the second film is a little bit better. I think it was a more of a better film, better directed. I don't know what it was, but I felt that the second film, and I don't. Someday, if I ever do talk about the Spider-Man trilogy, Sam Raimi's films, I'll get more in depth. I'm just kind of trying to talk about a few things here before I talk about this movie. But the first Spider-Man, okay, to backtrack for a second, because my brain's like, I don't want to talk about this movie, so it's trying to scramble up, uh, my thoughts here, because this movie will destroy your brain cells. Okay, so the first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. I liked him back then. I didn't mind him as Peter Parker. Like, okay, he was okay as Spider-Man. You know, Willem Dafoe, I didn't mind. I mean, I liked him as Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, James Franco. I thought he was decent. Kirsten Dunst, looking back now, to me, she was not a good Mary Jane. The first film is just, Sam Raimi, he's a good director. I love the Evil Dead movies. Uh, Darkman's a great movie, classic. But, just something always to me felt off at the first movie. And I think the second movie did a little bit better. And like I said, someday if I ever do talk about those movies, I'll get more in depth of, what I don't like, what I, did like or what have you. But I do think out of the first three movies, the second film is the best. Because it felt more of a, crisp sequel, if that's a word I can use, just, it seemed better directed, better handled, better acted, whatever the case. Alfred Molina, I thought was a really good Doc Ock. And I thought it was a more, it just did things better, but again, someday I'll talk about that when I get into those movies. But today we're going to talk about Spider-Man 3. So we're, jumping ahead to the third movie here. Now, in this movie, as far as the story, Peter Parker's trying to maintain his relationship with Mary Jane, as well as his responsibilities as Spider-Man. Peter's old friend Harry, played by James Franco, he wants revenge against Peter, for killing his father, Norman Osborn, which you saw in the first movie. And then at the same time, you have the character of Sandman, played by Thomas Hayden Church. His origin, his character in the mix. And you also have Eddie Brock in the film, played by Topher Grace, who was a big miscast. But his character's thrown in, so which later on he would become Venom, if you want to call him that. And basically, the symbiote, which you see in the movie, long story short, takes over Peter, at some point in the film, because, he wants just to be a dick and all that stuff. But it just, see, I'm trying to, just talking about this movie gives me a headache, because what this movie is a big clusterfuck. And I did see this when it came out. I did see Spider-Man 3 when it came out. And God, mighty. And I don't want to blow up my microphone. I really don't want to go ballistic here. I don't want to go too over the top, because I'm afraid of blowing out my microphone or, something like that. But it's just, watching this again, I was reminded of how bad it is, how it's just too much going on. You got too many things going on in this film. I mean, you got the stuff with, Peter and Harry. The angle with Sandman. The angle with, Eddie Brock. Topher Grace. And the whole thing about, what you find out later, that apparently Sam Raimi didn't want Venom in the film. The studios wanted Venom. He was never, from what I understand, a big fan of the character. So this is why things turned out the way they did with this movie. And just a lot of, that was shoehorned in. But that's this movie. It's one big clusterfuck of, just trying to shoehorn as much as we can into the film, with a lot of dumb shit. And I know I'm already getting mad, but okay, the cast, I mean, Tobey Maguire, what? We have Tobey Maguire being a dope and fucking crying Maguire, crying way too much in the film, way too damn much. Then later on when he gets, the black shit that takes over, and, the Bully Maguire, whatever I know people out there have talked about, have seen the Bully Maguire videos, and being emo, and just dancing like a fool. It's stupid. It's not funny. It's not, witty. It's stupid. Kirsten Dunst, her character still being a nag in the film. And just, I'm getting acid reflux from talking about this movie. Kirsten Dunst being a nag. We have the whole angle with, oh, it wasn't this guy that killed Uncle Ben. It was the Sandman, Flint Marko, Thomas Hayden Church. He killed Uncle Ben. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. You see how this review is I'm just kind of going all over the place here. That's this movie. So you can say it's kind of warranted here, that I'm not really staying on one thing. It's hard because this movie sucks. And there's too much going on. There's too much, that's forced in. And you got like 10 different angles taking place. But, getting back to the cast. Kirsten Dunst. Never liked her as Mary Jane. James Franco here. Even those moments where the moment where he gets knocked out, and people have seen the film know what I'm talking about, where James Franco is going after Spider-Man and he gets knocked out in the alleyway, and then he gets amnesia, like it's a damn soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful. He's in the hospital, and the nurse is like, "You have great friends." "Yes, the best." And I'm like, this is stupid. And then you got the relationship between Peter and, Mary Jane, which is that, Peter's disappointing Mary Jane, and Mary Jane doesn't want, just being a nag, and, Peter Parker crying. And then you got Eddie Brock in the film, played by Topher Grace, who is hugely miscast. To me, he was just, whenever you throw Topher Grace into a movie, the movie is going to be god-awful. Whether that be Predators. I haven't seen the 70s show, but I'm just not a big Topher Grace guy. To me, someone who should have played this character, maybe I'm just spitballing here. I know some people might say Vin Diesel or what have you, but, maybe a Jake Busey, somebody, because, to me, Eddie Brock, and I'm not the biggest, I'm not, so knowledgeable on the Venom character, but I always thought that, Eddie Brock was, he was kind of a brawny guy, a brawny character, kind of tall, or, maybe was built. So maybe you could have had like a Jake Busey, somebody like that. And there's some other names that you could have thrown out there. But Topher Grace, again, he was just hugely miscast. And I can't stand Topher Grace. The one thing that I can say about this movie, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, his angle, to me, was the only good thing about the movie. They should have just kept it with Sandman. If they didn't want to do Venom, I think Sam Raimi should have just stepped away. Have someone else direct it. Don't force him in here. Don't cram Venom in here if you're not gonna. Fuck. See, that's what I think about this movie. Again, if I can ask reflux, talking about Spider-Man 3. Because I just ate lunch and I just want to talking about this movie. So I'm kind of like, I got to keep it down. Because this movie will give you that. It will give you reflux. And, and I know this is not the most structured review and rant, but there's just so much going on in this movie. But again, the one aspect that I will say about the film, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, they should have just kept that. If you want to have two villains, have Sandman and the Lizard. To me, you've already had Kurt Connors early on. You bring him into the second film and this film, but maybe by this point he should have been the Lizard, and he could have had Sandman and Lizard. To me, that would have made sense. Not have Sandman, which again, he's the only decent part about the movie. His storyline. If they just, if they just would have focused on that, or just, you could have kept Sandman in the movie. Have Sandman by himself, or if you really want to have a second villain, then have the Lizard. But no, we got to cram Venom in. And like I said, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to Venom. I remember Venom from the cartoon. I know maybe a little bit about the character. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm not, I'm the biggest Venom aficionado, if that's the word. But even I can see, the way that the character's treated here. He's treated like shit. And Topher Grace does not help matters. I don't know what Sam Raimi was thinking with that. But like I said, you got the stuff with Peter and Harry where Harry gets amnesia in the hospital. The troubled relationship between, Mary Jane and Peter, where Mary Jane's still being a nag. Peter Parker crying more times. Cry Me a River, Tobey Maguire, with his damn tears. Peter Parker being emo. Peter Parker dancing like a fool. And what else? I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of, like I said before, I'm not going to go too crazy here because, I've seen this movie before and it's like, I could go ballistic, I can go over the top, but I don't want to, blow out my microphone or something like that. But, God, Spider-Man 3, this movie it's a big what the fuck of, too much going on. So I'm trying to think here. I mean, like I said, I've seen the film quite a few times, and I know this is not the best rant in the world, but, it just, I'm thinking about this movie, and it's a soul sucker. It just really, really, I don't know, and again, I don't know what Andrew feels about the movie. I know there's some people out there that like the movie. Some people, I've heard this before, they say that this is the Batman Forever of this generation, where, you know, either you like it or you don't. But I would say even then, Batman Forever is a better movie. I'd rather watch that. And I'm not going to say that's a great movie, but it wasn't as bad as this. I mean, this film, Batman Forever, it was the third film and, oh yeah, Michael Keaton didn't come back. But I liked Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Tom Lee Jones, I thought he was okay as Two-Face. But, I know I'm getting into a tangent there. I don't want to go too far down the Batman hole, but, getting back to this film, I mean, the third act is, ridiculous with the whole, Sandman and Venom teamed up. They're teaming up against Spider-Man at this construction site, and they're beating on Spider-Man, and here comes the Hobgoblin, James Franco to save the day. And then you have a 2-on-2 in the finale, the lot of CG, and then, by the end, you have one final scene between Sandman and Dopey McCryer, where he forgives Sandman for, killing Uncle Ben, and then he drifts away. He goes to the beach. Probably. He's like, bye. And he wanders off. Sandman drifts away. And he drifts away. Sandman goes to the beach. And he becomes sand at the beach and have topless women lay on Sandman. That's probably where he went. He's like, fuck that, I'm not going to prison. I'm not going to jail. And the way Venom was stopped was stupid. The humor is stupid throughout the movie. I know some people like that stuff. Some people have, said that it's funny that, see Peter Parker dancing like a fool and being emo, and then the stupid ass fight between Tobey Maguire, emo Toby, and Harry in that, his apartment was stupid. And then you got the bit where, the butler knew what happened to Harry's father, that he died by his own glider. I'm like, you didn't, why did you keep this back? Why did you not tell Harry before? Surprised Harry didn't kill his butler right there on the spot. And it's just, this movie is nonsensical and too much going on, over bloated, overstuffed. Sam Raimi, if he didn't want Venom, they should have gotten someone else to direct that can handle the character well and handle the character with respect. Because, and again, I'm not saying I'm not a fan, but I don't know a whole lot about Venom. As far as like, I've never read the comics, so I remember him from the cartoon. But even I can see that this is, when you look at this film and what they did with Venom, it was freaking horrible. And that's putting it, lightly. And, this film is just an over-bloated piece of crap. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more I can say about this movie. Because, it's a film that I've seen before. And I know I didn't really, this rant here may have been, a little bit all over, but, with this movie here, it's kind of warranted because it is all over the place. And, because I haven't really talked about the first two movies, this is kind of like, I'm just kind of going off the fly here a little bit with this one. Someday whenever I do talk about the first two movies, I'll get more into that and, what I like and what I don't like. But like I said, I will say out of the first three, Spider-Man 2 was the best. And this one here is just took a big nosedive, and, no wonder why they never made a Spider-Man 4. They've talked about it for years that, we're going to have Vulture, or it was going to be Mysterio for Spider-Man 4, but it never happened. I do think in a way that this film here, even though, Tobey Maguire made a couple of films after, but, really since this movie, Tobey Maguire, his career just really went off the damn cliff. And Tobey Maguire, I can leave or take him. I mean, Pleasantville's a good movie for people out there. If you haven't seen Pleasantville, I would say give that a watch. That's a good movie. And Tobey Maguire, he's good in Spider-Man 2 for what he has. The first Spider-Man, I can leave or take him. And then by this movie here, they just have him cry every 5 minutes, being emo, dancing like a fool, and, da 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 da, suck my dick, Spider-Man 3. That's why I feel about this movie. Suck it! So, yeah, I may have, I know, see, I'm going over the top. And that's all I have for Spider-Man 3. So, yeah, I mean, thank you to Andrew for the paid request, and I hope it was a good review or a rant or whatever. I mean, like I said, it's a little bit hard, because I haven't really talked about the first two movies, maybe someday. But, yeah. But thank you once again. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.